Welcome Wargamers, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, and today I want to talk about something that is very close to my personal heart, and that is narrative gaming. Telling stories with the games that we play, whether they are, based around tournament rules or not, like in terms of force construction. But how games tell stories is really meaningful to me, both for me personally and this channel. And I want to talk about how Para Bellum just changed the game, because they created this, and there is more value in this $55 box than $350 worth of campaign and narrative supplements from GW, and I want to talk about why. We've all become a bit benumbed to large campaign series, ending a edition of the game and then outdating itself immediately. I would like to show you another option for including both match play players and narrative players and get them to try new things and tell a story together as gaming groups or as individuals. Now, this all started because I was sent this box by Para Bellum, but they didn't tell me what it was. It just said like campaign pack, and I just assumed it was going to be a book. But when I got it in the mail with absolutely no context, I unpacked it and realized that like I was going through that and the Dawnbringers campaign series from GW at the same time, and the differences were glaring. And so in this video, we're going to talk about what comes in this particular box and why it is different in terms of the way it supplements a game and continues to engage players and provide value. Now, really quickly before we get into that, if you are looking for any Para Bellum stuff or any mini wargaming stuff whatsoever, please consider using any one of the affiliate links in my link tree down below. You'll see exactly how much you save, and every single time you do, it goes directly to supporting me, my wife, our cats, the whole thing. Para Bellum is awesome to work with, and they're a wonderful company to support. But if you're looking for any hobby supplies from anywhere else, I have tons of options available to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to support content creators like me. Now, let's start with what actually comes in the box. Now, I wanted to start here because of how humble it looks compared to the big campaign series I was talking about, and this is part of why I was having that discord in my brain. So we have here the Conquest Lore Campaign Pack, Crucible of Wills, the Stone Face Campaign. Essentially, just to put it really bluntly, this is a narrative supplement that tells a specific story of one campaign mission where the forces of the Dweghome are encountering the 100 Kingdoms, and there's a couple battles there to facilitate that. So it's not trying to be setting wide in scale. It is a zoomed in, hyper-fixed look at these places and these people doing an action, and it allows for some very cool storytelling when everything doesn't have to be the end of the freaking world. So inside, you just get this little booklet. Okay, not much to it. We'll go through that in more detail, obviously. You also, I'm sorry, that's from me from something else. We have two miniatures in here representing our titular characters. One of them is the Stone-Faced King, and the other was Eric Schur, who is the hero of the 100 Kingdoms. We get some of the new bases that you can put a magnet in. That's kind of nice. And honestly, that's it. It's just a booklet and two miniatures. And it retails for about $60, $55 if you use my code. And if you have someone to split this with, it's a great deal because these little character things tend to be like $25 to $30 each. Puts it right in line, and you guys get a campaign. I'll throw the models that are completed up here on the screen so you get a sense of what they look like. But sure enough, just as I said, one is a Dweghome Lord, the Stone Face, and the other being the leader of the human defending forces. And there's actually a really cool narrative about why these two armies are clashing against one another. I did a dedicated video on that. So if you want to see how Para Bellum sets up some of their stuff, we'll talk about that in a second. But I'm going to talk more about this as a product instead of a narrative to be explored. I explored the story in another video. What is the product that is so great about campaigns and narrative? That's all in here. 43 pages, and they do more for the game than GW's entire campaign series. Let's talk about it. Now I'm going to set this here, and we're going to have a discussion about how companies use campaign features, okay? Now, obviously, let's just do a quick recourse for those of you who are new to the hobby. A campaign is a series of games that are linked together by some kind of storytelling. It could just be storytelling, or it could be game mechanics, like there's losses that go from one game to the next. Maybe you gain an artifact if you win something, minor stuff like that. But the idea is to tell a story that you otherwise couldn't have told just by using basic game rules. Now that's a simple idea, okay? And if you're playing historicals, you would often see like the Battle of Gettysburg, where you have your rule system for historical miniatures, and then the Battle of Gettysburg has rules for that particular geographical location and heroes and that kind of stuff. This is the same thing. Conquest is the game. Crucible of Wills, the Stone Face campaign is the story. But How companies use these stories to introduce new players and supplement existing ones is wildly different. Games Workshop uses them to set up the next narrative arc, okay? And they did this with, what is it? Shattered Realms, I think it was called. Broken Realms, I'm sorry. The Dawnbringer series, the End Times, all of those things. They're all storytelling elements to explain what happened to get us to the next point so they can sell you a whole new wave of product. But the problem inherent with that is that all the things you just bought for that story are immediately invalidated if you wish to keep playing the newer stuff. Para Bellum takes a different approach. This book has an immense amount of value for new and returning players, which is a thing that Games Workshop cannot say about any of its campaign products. They require a lot of information and knowledge about the game before they have value, so they're not necessarily the most accessible to new players. They're invalidated quickly, so that has diminishing returns if you're not a collector. And the length of time that they'll add value to existing players is very short. So it's the alternative. Let's get into it. Let's pop this sucker open. As you can see, there's not much to it here. We have an introduction to our two main characters, the ones we got miniatures for. Actually, I'm going to move this back out so it's not quite in your face. Apologies. We have two different characters, Rogadash, the Stone-Faced King, and the Hold of Gay Dome, which is their dwarven for holds that they keep. Eric Schur. They have a section called Storied Regiments, which are interesting. Essentially, imagine if you were playing Age of Sigmar, and they told you take, free guild soldiers, and you just use that war scroll with a few minor modifications, and now they're like a character unit. That's kind of what it is. So in this one, there's a few different units from across the 100 Kingdoms in the Dweghome. These are just like alternate profiles to represent the specific forces. Usually it's stuff like, you have the Stone-Faced King, who is your general that comes in this box, and there'll be like an alternate build for Thanes, rules-wise, not models, but that makes it like his personal guard kind of a thing, just to kind of add a little bit more flavor. So we get new units, all around, and then some of them are units that exist model-wise already. We have the campaign items, which are essentially artifacts that you guys can collect over the course of the campaign, as we talked about. And then there's 4 scenarios. Now, each of these has a 1-page, introduction to kind of set the scene of, what are the conditions of the battlefield. The reason I like these is because they are broad enough that you can tailor them to whatever. So, let's say one person in your group buys this, right? But you don't have Dweghome or 100 Kingdoms. Let's say you have Spire. These missions are written in such a way when they depict the battlefield and what's happening that you can retailer the story to include the Spire. For example, one of them, tearing down the Veiled Bridge, is about an army trying to cross the bridge, and the other is trying to defend it or blow it, whatever you need to do. It could just as easily be Spire walking through a mountain pass that's very narrow, or in a valley, something like that. It's just broad enough for you to kind of reconfigure whatever you want. And then at the bottom here are 2 distinct conclusions depending on who won. So if you finish your campaign thing in the Dweghome player one, you flip to his page and read it off, which makes it feel a lot like a role-playing element more than a wargaming thing, which I like quite a bit. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Doug, there's not a lot in there. Right? Games Workshop books, they got maps, they got pictures, they got painting tutorials, they got new models that come out with them, this kind of thing. But let's talk about how they supplement that basic idea with getting people into their brand. So for example, here we are on Rogadash, the Stone-Faced King, and the Hold of Gay Dome, okay? So we have here is a 1-page description of the king, what makes his hold unique. It's actually very cool. And then down below here are 3 QR codes where they essentially point you in a direction to start learning more about the game. And this is a thing that has to do with user interface, of onboarding new players, of brand recognition, of training your customers, that they do that Games Workshop doesn't. Their lore is all online. And so by giving you this book, if you don't know jack all about Conquest, you can pick this up and be like, Rogadash, who the hell is that? And then click on any one of these things and you will learn everything about him. There's the entire history of the Hold of Gay Dome, the rise of Rogadash, so his particular character rising through the ranks of it. There's a prelude that kind of sets him up in preposition for this battle. This is storytelling and contextual information to take someone who knows nothing about Dweghome and and not train them, that's kind of the wrong word, but like educate, train in the sense of like now they know where to find information and can find it for themselves. You enable them. You turn the page, boom, you got his campaign rules right there. So this is specifically for that particular model that we got in the box set. As this is more about campaign focus in general than campaign rules, I'm not going to go over it too much, but it's a nice little synopsis. They do have the map of the entire setting right there for you. And then they do the same thing with the 100 Kingdoms. Again, if you don't know anything about this, you learn who Eric Schur is, the city of Pravia. We have an entire portrait section on him, and then a list of all his adventures that he's been on. One of the things that's cool about Conquest is that the players, you and I, get to write the lore long term. They actually have I think it's monthly polls to see what characters do, and then it kind of gets locked in canon, and then they'll release stuff like this that has the story that we built together. So we'll go through that. There's his rules. Again, there's the storied regiments where they're kind of giving you a 1-paragraph blurb about the, why is this unit unique for this person, right? Why is Eric Schur's Steel Legion different? Why are they the Blades of Providence and not just Steel Legion? And they do that for a few different units. He's got a whole bunch of cool kits to go out there and just knock on some Dweghome. The Dweghome are really cool because they have a giant fire dragon that looks like it's out of Mad Max, and they have a special edition of that as well. Same thing for the items that we talked about. You get a little bit of background, contextualizing them, not just for the geographical location, but why these forces want these items, which a lot of times I feel like is overlooked. And then we get to the scenario parts. As I mentioned, there's a brief story that, elucidates us all to the kind of battle. Scouts have been sent forth, they're kind of getting a sense of where the battle position is. This is what the battlefield generally looks like. Here's the regiments included if you want to use the specific heroes and stuff like that. Storied regiments is the term I'm looking for there. But yes, so again, I want to highlight this is great for new and returning players because it contextualizes why you're fighting and does so in a way that doesn't bind you to these forces. Like, yes, you can use these if you're playing these forces, but like the mission and stuff works if you're playing W'adrun Inspire. You can just do it. And what I like about it is it also gives players an insight into when we play this game and you see this symmetrical setup with objective zones and that kind of stuff, what is the kinds of stories that we can tell with those things, right? They look a little, I guess, nuts and boltsy on the table, but there's a story here, and the story is of Gaedom trying to seize the initiative on these guys. Same thing, here's tearing down the bridge as we talked about before. We'll skip to that one. As you can see, the board is kind of defined as being what the bridge scenario is trying to do. That's why I said you could easily swap it out with a cliffside or a valley, something like that. And then here at the end, you have your victory stories, which I'm not going to cover too much because I don't want to spoil anything. And on the back, another one of those huge pages of resources. This is the kind of thing that Games Workshop does not do, that you should do with all of your products, and you should feel dumb if you're not doing it. I'm just going to throw that out there. The back of this book has everything if anybody ever wanted to learn about Conquest. Remember I said before, if somebody doesn't know jack all and they pick this up, you get connected to their app, which has all the rules. Everything's for free. The list building, there's going to be a campaign section in there for it eventually. You can join a narrative campaign, get all the events right there, all the lore, free scenarios, Discord, painting competitions, their newsletter, all their social media BS. It's all there. This book invites players to be a part of the community in a way that 6 campaign books from Games Workshop totaling $350 does not. If you don't know jack all about Stormcast, good luck. The first 3 books are not even about them. You would have no way of learning, as opposed to all the resource information that they've given you. They pointed you in a direction of where to find information, how to engage with the community, how to get excited, how to learn more if you're interested in the lore, and how to use books like this that don't go away necessarily with the edition that's just coming, meaning this book's going to be valid for a while now. It's just awesome. Even if I went to Half Price Books and grabbed one of the old campaign books from, I don't know, 40K, something we'll put something that's been out in the last 2 to 3 years so it's not too controversial, and I wanted to learn about an army in there, it doesn't give you enough information to learn the full story of anything. Whereas this at least gives you it equips you to learn it all because it's all for free online. And products like this bring all of their free online stuff together. The app that Para Bellum has is top notch. I don't know how else to say it. It is the best gaming app ever because it's just non-intrusive with its information. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. I love it. The way that they do community outreach and building is just incredible. And all of it is just right here. It's just a clean product. It's great for onboarding new players and supplementing existing ones. If you have a game or you are part of a gaming community and you have some level of input with the game creators, tell them to look at this. This is really stinking cool. A huge thank you to Para Bellum for sending me this. I did not expect it at all. I will do a video that dedicates just to talking about the rules that come with the various units in here. Also, just know that this is part of a campaign or internal, like a marketing campaign. They actually started doing their own like terrain, and so part of this is just highlighting the different STLs that they sell. But again, like, tell me a part of this hobby that this little booklet doesn't touch on, right? There's everything from lore, army building, unique units, unique ways to play with the scenarios and the regiments you get in here, and all the different resource pages that you need to get plugged into everything. Everything from a painting competition, again, all the lore, the rules, all of it. I have yet to see another game company make such a clean and succinct product. And when I say game company, I mean specifically like these army scale war games, right? Like, yeah, Hasbro can do this, I don't doubt it. But there's a lot more moving parts and people there, whereas a lot of these companies like Games Workshop, Para Bellum, Corvus Belli, like they're smaller teams, which is what makes knocking it out of the park like this so remarkable. Not everything has to have cataclysmic end of the world stakes. Not every campaign system has to completely invalidate its own rules within 3 months. They don't all have to be in support of huge model line changes that require years of preparation that when you have, say, a shipping problem, throws off the entire release schedule for the next 6 months. That's what happened with the last Dawnbringers. You can have a product that just supports your community and adds value to them and makes it easy for new people to join. That's what these should be, right? These should be ancillary products that add value. Someone goes, "What the hell is that? That looks awesome." And you can just hand them this and be like, you can just learn. Like if I'm at my local game store, I would put this on the table next to me and be like, if you want to learn about it, just scan it with your phone. I don't know. I thought it was great, and I just wanted to take a moment to talk about it kind of as a direction within the wargaming space, because we're inundated with the big kid on the block GW's method of doing things, and nobody else produces as much campaign material as Games Workshop, but I think other people do it much better. So Para Bellum, you win, my friends. I can't wait to hang out and talk about this some more. Like I said, I do have a video about the lore behind here if you are a Conquest fan. It is very cool how they set up the story as kind of an isolated snapshot into a world that's torn apart by war in a lot of different directions. So I hope you'll check that out. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you next time, friends. Happy wargaming.